Okay, so welcome everyone. So it is our pleasure to welcome Bill. So actually, he is currently the co-founder of Impact Learners, which is a nonprofit organization. And in 2024, he earned a gold medal at the International Biology Olympiad and is currently an incoming member of MIT's class of 2029. So to start off, I guess I'll ask more about like your academic and Olympiad journey. So what initially sparked your interest in biology?
Well, I started in seventh grade, actually. I had been interested in STEM in general before then. I used to compete in a competition called TMSCA. So Texas has this statewide competition called TMSCA, which is like a STEM competition. I don't know if New Jersey or other states have similar ones, but you can compete in like general math, general science, number sense, and calculator. I don't know if you guys have something similar to this, but I was really good at general science, so I liked doing STEM stuff. But I wasn't sure what specific field in STEM I wanted to go into. So at the time, Phoenix actually suggested to me biology or to try biology because I was interested in or I at the time I really liked to go biking and I like to watch birds. So he suggested, why don't you try biology? So that's how I got interested in the Olympiad first. Um, but like aside from that, I've been doing the Olympiad for the entirety of my high school career, right? So I made the national finals my sophomore, junior, and this year, senior year. Um, and I won the IBO gold last year. So aside from that, I do other kinds of biology competitions occasionally, but USO is probably the biggest one. That's pretty much it.
So does like I guess winning or being good at science like shape your goals or perspective on biology or science in general?
It definitely gives me a broader perspective because at the USIBO camp, you get to meet 19 other people who are also really good at biology, right? So you get to see what their viewpoints are sort of like, get to interact with mentors from the field. There's like a baseline level of biology, I think, that you need to be at in order to talk to people in the field or have meaningful conversations with them, right? So I think winning the gold medal and also just competing in these competitions all throughout high school has definitely given me a better sort of perspective on, what biologists actually do in their careers, what's happening in the field currently, like what are the big discoveries, like what's out there that's still undiscovered, things like that, right? So I think that's the biggest perspective that biology competitions have given me.
So I guess like looking at like all your success, like how does your preparation process kind of look like? And what would you recommend to like newer students who are like starting off?
My preparation process is unfortunately not very interesting. It consists of two halves. So there are two parts to preparing for any academic competition, in my opinion, and that's learning content and applying content. So learning content is done through textbooks usually. You study textbooks. So for biology Olympiad, my desk over here, you can't see it on camera, but I have a desk with like about 20 different textbooks that I've gone through. Um, some of these I've read many, many times, like Campbell's, the premier one that people always recommend for use, but I think I've read it 13 times cover to cover, right? So that's learning content. Applying content is doing practice problems, taking tests, things like that, so that you know that you can actually use the knowledge that you have or recall it. Um, that I do by taking Usable practices. So Usable has um, a web page with a bunch of past exams that you can take and their answer keys so you can grade yourself and see how you do. So that's mainly how I practice. It's not particularly interesting, but in most academic competitions, there's not really a special technique or secret that you can do to prepare. You just have to grind away and learn the content. That's pretty much it.
So since there's like so much content and you have like a lot of books, like what is your best tip for studying like very efficiently?
Um, Well, there's two parts, right, to studying efficiently as well, in my opinion. The first part is actually sitting down and studying, and in my opinion, that's the part that most people struggle with the most, because most people don't study very much, right? So these are like psychological tricks you can use to like convince yourself to study or help yourself study. So one thing I like to do is I always study in the same place every single day. I have this desk, and I don't do anything else at that desk except for study. So I've kind of Pavloved myself into whenever I sit down, I'm focused. I don't go on my phone. I don't do anything else. So when I sit down, I just have that habit of being focused. Um, Another thing is using paper textbooks. So I know you can get a lot of pretty much any textbook you want online, an online copy of PDF. I do not endorse this, but you can get free copies of textbook through LibGen and other like pirating sites. It's not super difficult. But there's a lot of value in having a paper textbook that you can like hold and manipulate, in my opinion. And it also helps you focus because most people, if they study at their computer, I guarantee you, uh, in about 5 minutes, they'll just be like scrolling on YouTube or God knows what else, right? So having a paper textbook really helps make yourself focus. So that's the psychological side of things, like actually sitting down and studying, which in my opinion is also the hardest part. The second part is what do you do once you start studying? Well, every person does this a little differently, but the fundamentals are basically all the same. Um, you want to first expose yourself to content in several different ways. So the 20 textbooks that I was mentioning on this desk, a lot of them have very similar content. Like I have like Campbell's is an introductory biology textbook, right? I have a lot of textbooks that focus on field specific in biology, like physiology, right? Plant anatomy and physiology, genetics, molecular biology, but they do go over some of the same stuff as Campbell's. So reviewing content that's the same, kind of the same, but in a different way by different people using different mediums like, flashcards. You can use videos. You can have other people physically lecture to you like a teacher. Like using different mediums and different avenues of receiving information helps retain the information. And the second thing to do is to test yourself often. You don't have to take a necessarily like a practice test. It could just be, a lot of textbooks have practice problems at the end of each chapter. You do those. Um, you create review problems for yourself and solve them, things like that. Um, those are probably the most important parts of studying. Um, Really, there isn't any universal tip I think I can give you. Like I said, every person does it differently. I myself, I like to use a flashcard app called Anki to review facts. It's pretty common in like pre-med and med school people. But people all have their own ways of taking notes, studying, and pretty much everything works from my experience. So just choose a method, stick with it. If you don't like it, change it. It's not a big deal. Yeah.
So someone actually asked in the chat, what classes do you take to prepare for, I'm assuming it's the IBO, not just for the USABO open exam.
If you're talking about like school classes, do they mean like school classes? Or
Um, might just be like, I think they mean in general.
oh,
Oh,
okay. Well,
outside classes.
outside classes. I didn't take any outside classes. I know that's pretty controversial. Most people take outside classes, but I actually never took any. I never had a teacher for biology. I did everything on my own. So I can't really help you there. I recommend that in my experience, most of the time classes, I won't say they don't help, but if you already have the motivation and the willpower to study for the Olympiad, you're probably going to get where you want, regardless of whether you have classes or not. And if you don't have the willpower, having a class won't fix that problem. That's a problem you have to fix yourself. So, I didn't take any classes, so I can't really give you any pointers, but in my experience, they're not all that helpful.
So I guess going back to like your best tips, so I guess like what is one thing that you wish you knew earlier? It could be about like schools, competitions, like anything, I guess.
Um, the biggest thing is probably I wish I knew to like be a lot more or have a bigger breadth of the amount of stuff I study, not just in biology. In the upper echelons of the competition, I've begun to realize that, in order to be really good at biology, you can't just be good at biology. You have to be really good at math, physics, chemistry, or science, like a lot of stuff. And once you're good at a lot of stuff, then you can integrate your knowledge and apply a lot of the things you learn in biology more effectively, right? So, for example, if you don't know any coding, you're probably not going to get very far in computational biology, even though it is biology. Um, so yeah, if I had to go back in time, I'd probably tell my younger self to start studying a lot of stuff tangentially or maybe in tandem with biology, like math. The biggest ones are probably math and chemistry are probably the most applicable, and coding, data analysis sort of stuff. Yeah, that's what I would recommend.
I guess considering like all of these classes, like how do you stay motivated from like and like put aside like the urges of like just pulling out your phone and scrolling or like hanging out with friends like every day? Like how do you avoid that?
Um,
And
It's pretty easy to like just pull out your phone and start scrolling, right? Olympiad is a grind, but it's mainly like a mental willpower grind. The content in most Olympiads is not that difficult, or it is difficult. Don't get me wrong, it's very difficult to learn all this stuff. But the hard part isn't learning it, it's making yourself learn it, if that makes sense. So usually it helps to have a group of people you can compete with, or people you can compete with while learning. Competition is a very good motivator, I find. Um, if that doesn't work, another thing is that, like I said, with the habit, it's much easier to develop a habit and just stick with it. Like if you have a habit of sitting in this one place and studying, it's really like a lot easier to not pull out your phone and start scrolling if you develop that habit. But if you don't have that habit, then it becomes really hard, right? So start a good habit, and then after that, it will become a lot easier. Um, I'd say just for big picture, though, you should have a very good motivation on why exactly you want to do Olympiads. If you just want to go into an Olympiad because you think it will be a good resume booster or get you into like a good college, I'm very sorry to say you're probably not in the right place, right? It is true that the USABO is very prestigious, right? And obviously it's a good thing on your resume. But if that's the only reason why you want to do it, it's going to be really hard for you to get through studying textbooks and grinding because it's going to feel kind of stupid and silly. So if you have I would say if you have a very strong motivating factor or a strong motivation for getting into an Olympiad, that's probably the best thing you can do. Have a good motivation for why exactly you even want to do the USABO, and that's about as good as it gets.
so I guess like since we know that you're an incoming member of the MIT's class of 2029, so I guess like why did you choose MIT out of like all of the colleges out there?
Um, I won't I won't try to make my friends who go to other colleges mad, but in my opinion, it's the best university in the world. So that's why I want to go, right? There's several reasons. The biggest one is probably pretty much all the people that I really admire, that I look up to, or I think are really smart and I want to be like them, they pretty much all go to MIT. The USABO camp TAs, a vast majority of them go to MIT. A lot of my upperclassmen friends who I really look up to, for example, Phoenix, right? I'm sure you know Phoenix, goes to MIT. So I thought MIT was the best choice for me.
So I guess since you're going into MIT, do you have any specific fields of biology that you want to kind of explore more or that you're interested in?
Yeah, so the biggest one, what I think is the future of biology is genetics. So, um, genetics is basically study of genes, right? Everything to do with genes. And the reason why I'm so interested in this field is because nowadays we have better and better computational methods to analyze genes, right? So genes are just like huge volumes of data. Like the genome, for example, human genome is like what? 3 billion base pairs, right? So it's 3 billion? No, 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 no. Sorry, I'm getting my numbers mixed up, but it's something like that. It's a huge volume of data that if you want to analyze it, you need very strong computers and very good algorithms, right? And until very recently, um, like with the Human Genome Project and whatnot, we didn't actually have the technology to analyze the genome in an effective way or even sequence uh, genes very quickly, right? But nowadays we have that technology. So I think that's really fascinating. And it opens a lot of avenues for research that were previously not able to be explored. So I think genetics is the coolest field right now. I'm majoring in computational biology, which is put simply just using computers to analyze biological things, right? But I'm specifically interested in genetics. So that's what I hope to study at MIT.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. So I guess at MIT, do you think your prior like Olympiad experience would contribute to your success in college? And if so, like how?
Um, I mean, I sure hope so, but um, I haven't been yet, so I wouldn't know, right? But yes, I've heard from many of my Olympiad friends that the difficulty of Olympiad tend to be around the difficulty of like graduate classes. So like most undergrad classes tend to be like very easy in the field of Olympiad. So um, I'm hoping that I'll be able to breeze through most of my biology classes. Um, but again, I haven't been there, so I wouldn't know. Um, but I think the biggest thing that Olympiad brings to me, or competing in Olympiads brings to me, is the like study habits that I've developed. Not like literally what I've studied, the content knowledge, but the habit of how to study effectively. Because MIT it's a difficult place. The classes are hard. There are a lot of problems. You're surrounded by a lot of smart people. So I think having these habits I built already prior to entering MIT will be really beneficial. Um, that's probably the biggest thing that I can take away from Olympiads.
So someone asked in chat, if you have done any research other than IBO in high school.
Research?
Yeah.
Uh, IBO isn't research, but yes, I have done research in high school. Um, Actually, I did a passion project about a year ago. Um, I mentioned I like watching birds. Okay, so I like looking at how birds move. I think it's really cool how they search for food. Like, if you've ever wondered how does a bird like snatch an insect out of the air? Like insects are tiny, right? Um, so I did a research project, computational project, analyzing the way birds move. Like created a algorithm to sort of model how birds move in their environment, and I just used some computational methods, created my own data sets and things like that. So that was the most recent research project I did. I did one in my freshman year, um, also a computational biology project about analyzing neural spike trains, which are basically streams of data that record how neurons fire in the brain, right? So I analyzed how synchronized or how together neurons tend to fire. So I also used computational methods to do that research. Yeah, so those were my two big research projects in high school. That's what I did other than IBO.
Yeah. So if anyone has like any other questions, you could just ask in chat. But now I guess I'm just gonna go to like some fun questions. So like I guess out of like all of the study places out there, like including like the library, like a cafe, like what is your ideal study place and why?
Home, because uh, like there's a bunch of textbooks here. I can't transport all of them to the library. Like that's kind of a headache. Driving to the library takes time. There's an activation energy involved in, getting in your car, driving or biking to the library. Like if I'm feeling lazy, it's way easier for me to just sit down at the desk, like walk like 10 feet and sit down in the desk and start studying than it is for me to go into my car or go to my bike like 10 minutes to the library, swipe the library card. There might not even be seats available for me to study. Like, come on, right? The best study space is always going to be your home, as long as you create a good study environment for yourself. So yeah, definitely at home.
So someone asked, like relating back to the research. They asked how many research papers were published.
One. I didn't publish the passion project, but I published the first one I did.
So I hope that answered your question. So I guess like the last one is just like outside of academics, like what are your hobbies? Like what do you do to like out like relieve stress and have fun?
Frisbee. I play a lot of ultimate frisbee. So this is actually something that I got from USIBO. Going to the USIBO camp, I got introduced to sport ultimate frisbee. I thought it was really fun, so I started a club at my school, and every so often I'll go and play with my friends in the park, play some frisbee. Frisbee is great because it's a sport that's not you're not very likely to get injured, especially if you're playing very casual ultimate frisbee. So I'm also a musician, right? And I really don't want to injure my hands. So I can't really play sports like basketball or um, like God forbid football or things like that because you have a very, very high likelihood of injuring yourself somehow. Um, like even basketball is so easy to jam your finger, and then what? You can't practice for a week, right? That's horrible. But in frisbee, it's pretty unlikely, especially if you're playing casual. So that's the sport that I play a lot.
Okay, yeah, I see. I guess we can wait like 1 or 2 more minutes for any additional questions. So, oh, someone asked, when did you start the biology competition?
I started competing in freshman year of high school. That's when you're actually allowed to start competing. Um, Unlike math, unfortunately, you can't compete until you're in high school. So that's when I started. I started studying the summer of my seventh grade year. When I heard about this competition, that's when I actually started studying for it. But I didn't actually start competing until my ninth grade year.
Someone asked, did you participate in any research programs?
No, I did not. Most research programs, except for like a select few, cost a lot of money. Like SSP is probably the one of the most famous ones, Summer Science Program, I think it's called. Yeah. That one, you apply to it, but that's not it, right? You have to pay like, oh God, it's ridiculous amounts of money, like thousands and thousands of dollars to participate in this program. I was just like, that's ridiculous. I'm not paying thousands of dollars to participate in a research program, right? There are only a couple. I think RSI is one of them, MITES. There are only a couple of research programs that you can do that don't cost any money. But other than that, they all cost exorbitant amounts of money. So I was like, this is pretty unreasonable. I'll probably stick to my Olympiads because the use was free. Other than the like it's a very small entry fee. It's like $5 or so to sign up for the competition. Everything else is free.
So someone else asked, is it too late to start preparing for USABO in 10th grade?
No, it's never too late. Depends on how much time you're willing to put in. But in my opinion, it's never really too late. Um, it's going to take a lot of time to prepare. I think that's one thing that most people don't want to hear, but it's true. It takes a lot and a lot of time. So regardless of when you start, if you start early or start late, you're going to have to drop a lot of hours. So if you're willing to drop the hours, it's never too late.
Okay, so I guess like kind of related to that, someone asked, how many hours did you spend on bio competitions weekly?
Weekly, I'd say, hmm, I don't think I spent any more than 7 hours on average per week, like an hour a day, on average throughout all of my studying time. At the peak, like in my busiest season, okay, so Usable has seasons. Like it's not explicitly marked, but most people, and if you want to study effectively and not burn yourself out, you probably want to study in the form of seasons, which means you basically study more when it gets close to the competition, and you unless you're trying to like massively increase your level, uh, you don't study nearly as much in the off season. So at the peak of the season, I'll probably study like 2 hours or 3 hours a day. Um, but in the off season, I might not even study like 30 minutes, 15 minutes a day, like not very much. So it varies, but I'd say on average 7 hours a week.
So I guess like during the competitions, how do you really balance like school, your extracurriculars, and preparing for these like exams?
Um, so most, I wouldn't say my school is easy, but I've never really had problems with schoolwork. Mostly because I complete most of my homework and schoolwork at school, so I almost never have any homework. Um, and other than that, my biggest like time draining extracurriculars is probably music. Orchestra takes a lot of time. Um, but the great thing about USABO is that it's very flexible in terms of studying, right? I can study whenever I want. It's not like I have to show up to a study practice session or a class or something like that. So it's pretty flexible in terms of when I can study. So that's been one thing that's been really great. Um, Other than that, I don't have much trouble organizing my time. I feel like um, one thing that people do often that may cause them to have like or struggle to organize their time is that they try to do way too much. Um, in my opinion, it's much better to choose like one or two things that you really like and do them very, very well. Like focus your time and energy into maybe one or two things. It's not really worth your time in high school to join all the clubs, do all the competitions. Like it's not worth it. It doesn't really help you. And most of the time, you'll be wasting your time. So that was my general experience. I I think for time management, you'll if you just test the waters a bit yourself, it's pretty easy to tell like where are your limits, how much time can you actually realistically spend, and how many things can you do in a day, right? So I don't really have too much problem with that.
So someone else asked, how can people tell if a student is fit for the biology competition?
Uh, this is a bit of a strange question. Fit for a biology competition. I suppose this question is trying to suggest like, how will you know if this biology competition is the right thing for you to do, or if you should be doing something else, right? Well, it's easy. You just see if you like doing it or not, or if you think it's useful to you, or you're learning things, you like it, just keep doing it. If not, go do something else. It's not too complicated, I think. I don't think, unlike sports, it's not something like where if you're not tall enough, you have like no chance of playing D1 basketball. There's nothing like that. Like you don't have to be anything in particular to do well in the biology competition. So that's one thing that I think is really nice, right? But suited to, I think if you just try it and you like studying biology, then you're suited to it. If you don't like it, that's okay. Maybe you're not suited to it. Go study something else or do something else.
Okay, I think that's it for our questions for today. So thank you so much for coming and answering everyone's questions.
Okay,
So yeah,
thank you.
thank
I'll
you. Thank you
Thank
everyone.
you.